What if it was possible to cut off those generational patterns that you've seen in your family, in parenting for decades? What if you were able to be present with your children without reacting? What if you saw your children for who they are and accepted them exactly as they are today with no reaction? And when they did those things that, trigger us, you could laugh and fluff it off. What if you knew how to hold a boundary? What if you knew how to listen without being reactive? What if you woke up feeling energized and content and confident in your parenting way of being, and you were no longer trying to control your partner, your spouse? You found the way that worked for you. Okay, ladies, I'm back. And today I have a special longer version podcast for you. I've actually taken the audio from my the parenting Q&A that I did yesterday. So if you were live on that, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, it went out. It was kind of advertised to the people that signed up for the 5-day unchallenge. But I wanted to share it here because I was kind of on my, rant like I do, my soapbox. And I was talking about a lot of different things, answering kind of some common questions that I get about parenting. And I want you to know this. You could literally go to the bookstore tonight and go to the parenting section and purchase every single parenting book on that shelf and binge on this information. And if you don't trust yourself, you will walk away more confused than when you started. Because you will say, well, do I do this or do I do this? Or in that moment when your child is having that epic tantrum, or where your child is having whatever, their human experience, their big emotions, their fear, their anger, their anxiety, and you're like, damn it, what page was that on? Where's that 5-part strategy that Dr. So-and-so told me or taught me? I am all for reading the books. I am all for learning the tools and strategies. But this is what I am not all for in the parenting world. You feeling disempowered. You are the person that spends the most time with your children. Maybe they're at an age where they're spending more time with their teachers or other caregivers. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I've never met your child. And if I have met your child, you've spent way more time with them. You know them better than anyone else. Here's my point. We need to stop searching outside of ourselves for the answer. I want to give you a mindset shift here. Search inside of yourself for the answer and seek outside mentorship, outside advisory. When I started doing this in my parenting, my business, my marriage, myself, things drastically changed. When I first said, Heather, what do you want? And then I went and sought out support and said, hey, I want to do this. Can you help me make this happen? And then I would put the filter through my intuition. I put the filter through, does this fit for me? Does this work for me? That is what I'm teaching you inside the Understanding Your Child's Behavior mini course. That's it. I'm giving you 6 modules that are going to drastically shift how you show up as a woman, as a mother, as a partner, as a sister, as a daughter, as a friend. Parenting may be the trigger. Parenting may be the pain point for you. But this program is going to drastically shift every intimate relationship you have in your entire life. I guarantee it. But the guarantee is only if you actually open the program and implement it. And I am gifting it to you at a reasonable, affordable price. It is $197. It is open until Friday at midnight Eastern Standard Time. And then guess what? After Friday, it's closed. It's done. That's it. And we'll open it again next year. The reason why I'm doing this is because so many of you will say, I don't know where to start. Start here. If parenting is something that you want to improve, stop making excuses of why you don't have time to do it. Every second, every single moment that you use an excuse, you are handing your emotional baggage off to your children so that when they are adults and things aren't working out for them in their relationships, they have to do the work that you were unwilling to do. I know, that's harsh. So if you are willing, then head on over to momisincontrol.com/sign up. momisincontrol.com/sign up. And when you sign up, because it's an added bonus, I'm going to be giving you my energetic time management workshop, which is a $300 value. And I'm giving you 2 live group calls this month. We might do this one this month, one next month. The point is, I'm giving you 2 live Q&As. I'm going to show up. I'm going to answer your questions. That's it. Ladies, we spend the money on the toys. We spend the money on the iPhones. We spend the money on the frickin' internet data plans. We spend the money on the lattes. Put your money with what is important to you. Prioritize your intentions. Because sometimes it's not about the excuses. Sometimes it's that your priorities aren't straight. Because you will say, I can't stop yelling. And then I will say to you, what have you done to try? And when the answer is nothing, that's not a me issue. That's a you issue. Or as a random guy on an airplane told me, that's an ish you. That's not an ish me. I'm here to give you the tough love and tell you the things that not everyone will tell you. Because I want you to thrive. I want you to feel alive. And I want you to become the person that you most desire your children to be. So head on over to momisincontrol.com/sign up. Do it right now. Pull the car over. Do it now. Do it when you get to work. Hide in a closet. Register now. Make it a priority. Change your life. Change your parenting. Change the future of how your children feel as adults. You have that power to do it. All right. Let's go. Game changer. Start now. So welcome everyone, I'm Heather Chauvet. So this is a parenting Q&A and the intention is to answer your parenting questions. I'm going to talk a little bit about my reflections to your reactions of the 5-day Good Enough Parenting Unchallenge. And then towards the end of the call, I'm going to be talking a little bit about what I have coming up. I will answer any questions you have about the Understanding Your Child's Behavior mini course that you can now check out at momisincontrol.com/sign up. So for those of you that are joining us live, I'm just going to put the link in here so you can check that out if you want. So that's momisincontrol.com/sign up. For those of you who have been following me for a while, you've been listening to the podcast, you've been maybe following me on Instagram, and you might know my story, but I'm going to give you a nutshell version. So I have 3 boys. They're 14, 9, and 7. And when I became a mother, I was also studying to become a social worker. And my minor was child development. And here I was getting educated in child development and having a child myself, not realizing that parenting was a spiritual practice. And I call parenting personal growth on steroids. And what I mean by that is if you are unwilling to look at something, your children will show you where you need to grow. Even if you're not unwilling, even if you're willing, our children are our greatest teachers. And we have to remember that we are spiritual beings having this human experience. And our child is a spiritual being having a human experience. And there is far more beyond what we are giving ourselves credit that is at play here. There is no right or wrong, and there also is no perfect parenting strategy. So when I look out there in the modern day parenting world, I see a lot of stressed out, burnt out, fatigued, angry, resentful parents who feel completely out of alignment in their life. And because they feel completely out of alignment in their life, they are overreactive and not being proactive in their life. So this reactivity makes you feel like you're constantly putting out fires, that there's never enough time, that there's never enough energy, that you're never doing enough. And when you have this cycle, this chronic cycle and belief that you are never enough, and then your thoughts are like, see, look, I'm never enough, I'm never enough. And you have these stories playing in the background in your mind, then you're taking action from that place of lack. And from that place of lack in parenting, because I'm just talking about parenting here, when you react from that place, you are constantly reactive instead of proactive in your life. And then you manifest this reality of, look, see, we're constantly busy. I'm constantly shouting. See, my partner's never on the same page and we're arguing. So this creates a cycle. This used to also be my reality. When I found myself completely frustrated and overwhelmed with parenting, and I felt like I was failing, and my gut was telling me there was more. So I've read every single parenting book out there, and I still do. And I have a different lens now. I look at parenting through a completely different lens than I did before. And even if you asked me a year ago, I would have looked at it very differently because I'm a different person. So when our beliefs change, our feelings change, our thoughts change, and the way that we show up on a daily basis changes. So there's two things happening all the time. There's you and there's your child simultaneously growing together. This is what I call a co-creation. When we are co-creating the life that we want with our children, this is where alignment and the magic happens. Excuse me. So in the 5-day Good Enough Parenting Challenge, I talked about, the first one was about yelling. How do I stop yelling, Heather? The second day, I talked about the social pressures of motherhood. The third day, I talked about encouraging independence. And the fourth day, I talked about what to do when your partner isn't on the same page. So, and the fifth day was the Q&A. And that was on an Instagram Live. And some of you have asked, like, Heather, where did it go? Well, on Instagram Live, it only lasts 24 hours and then it's gone. So I'm kind of, I did this one as well, but I will answer some of those same questions here. Being mindful that when we are yelling, okay, my solution to that to number one, so I've been getting a lot of questions about how do you just say it once? So I'm going to actually answer one of those questions now. And if for those of you who are on here, if you have a specific question, type it in the chat box below and I will personally answer it next. Okay, so this is a common question that I got from the 5-day Good Enough Parenting Unchallenge. Okay, Heather, let's say I commit to saying things once, right? Because I was like, you guys don't have to yell. Yelling is a choice. It's a bad habit. What's your advice if they don't listen to you when you ask the first and last time to say it? So this is I'm just going to read you another question. Let's just say you said, say it once. Okay. Time to turn off the TV. Then go over and turn off the TV. How does this work for a 3 and a 6-year-old when you say, time to get on the bus, and they don't move? I have started to set an alarm on my phone for my 6-year-old. My 6-year-old has started coming, but the 3-year-old doesn't give a shit. Perfect. So here's the thing about parenting. It's a relationship. It's a collaboration. It's not a one and done. So just because we have one conversation with our child or we have one moment does not mean that is going to create a lasting transformation. So there's something I've been starting to talk about, which is called consistent imperfection. Consistent imperfection is you consistently showing up the same way in your relationship with that child. So if you, and we do this consistently, very imperfectly all the time, if you show up, let's just say you want to change the behavior and you want to stop yelling completely. Great. So you're trying to master your morning routine and get outside of the house, get into the car to start your day or the bus or whatever, to start your day without yelling. Remember, you have control over your voice. You could literally put duct tape on your mouth and say, I will not yell today. Like 100%, I'm not raising my voice. Like non-negotiable, not raising my voice. So what you start to begin to do is consistently, imperfectly implement this boundary with your child. This, of course, is going to be incredibly uncomfortable for you because you're changing and you're creating a different habit, which is going to create different neural pathways in your brain. But your child is also creating new neural pathways in their brain because of their reactivity and how they're going to react to the situation and how you're going to hold that boundary. So in this scenario, you say it once, you have natural consequences with it. Now, some of you might be asking me, well, Heather, how do you implement a natural consequence? That the next level, there's always next level, right? So there's always more learning that we can do. The next level is the understanding your child's behavior mini course, because in there, and I forget what day it is, I do talk about punishment versus consequences. Let me see. Yeah, it's module 5. And I'll be talking more about that in a second. But punishment versus consequences. Okay, great. I want to master my morning routine. How am I going to do that? So here you are, you're saying, hey, time to put your shoes on. The day before, if it's a toddler, that's a little bit different. You got to get down on their level. You are more in control of this situation. Of course, they're going to have an epic meltdown, but understanding that their behavior is trying to teach you something. They're saying, this is overwhelming for me. I'm 3 years old, you're 30, 40, 50, whatever, and telling me what to do. You're sending a lot of information my way. You're also projecting your anxiety onto me because you're going to be late for work. I'm in a 3-year-old little body. Slow it down for me. So making sure you can be as proactive as possible. So whether your child is 3 or 10, you're going to set them up for success the day before. You're going to mentally role play in your mind. What do I need to do to create success in this situation? Are the shoes at the front door? Does the child have socks? Are those laid out? Does the child have clothes? Are those laid out? Are the lunches made? Are the lunches packed? Is everything in a row together? Like, have we set ourselves up for success? If you need to write a sticky note and go, step 1, do this, step 2, do that, I highly suggest that you do that as well. Whatever you need to do to mentally take the decision fatigue out of the process is key. Now, when you are jumping into the situation, it is consistency. You're not just going to do it for one day, expect it to go perfectly. It's going to take a week or two of suckiness in order for you to push through this discomfort. Honey, time to put your shoes on. So now I'm going to pretend that this child's 10 years old, that you've already talked to them the day before so they know what to expect, and you're going to say, I'm going to say it once, I'm going to put a 2-minute timer on, and then I'm shutting the timer off and I'm going to sit in the car and I'm backing out of the driveway. If you are not in this car by X amount of time, X whatever, there's going to be no screen time this weekend or no whatever after school. Do you understand? Yes, mom, I understand. So the time comes, and FYI, expect failure, expect tantrums. So you're going to have that time, you're going to execute, right? And then what's going to happen? Let's just say they do it. You're like, okay, cool. What happens? You throw the shoes in the car, you get in the car, and you go. Now, people always ask me, but Heather, you don't understand my children. I probably do. But here's the thing. We have to be okay with their discomfort. We have to be okay with our discomfort. And if we're not willing to slow down a little bit, to reassess and be proactive instead of reactive, you will never create change in your life. So, in order to do this, we have to collaborate and go, what worked? What didn't work? So, someone's asking, what if they say, I don't care after giving them consequences? Beautiful. Who cares? The reason why they're saying that is because they want to see if you're actually going to follow through. They might not care. That's fine. But what you're doing is implementing a boundary here and you're following through. So I have a child, one of my 3 boys, that when there's a natural consequence, like meaning I'm giving it in advance, okay? And what natural consequence is, put your coat on. I don't want to put I don't want to put my coat on. And then they're going out the door and they're getting cold. That's a natural consequence. But if there's I think it's called informed consequence. I talk more about this inside the program. Informed consequence, I think it's called adult informed consequence. This is where you're setting them up, right? You're like, hey, if you don't get this report done by the end of the month, I'm not going to be able to release your bonus. Like, oh, okay, I better do that report. Like, we know well in advance. It's not somebody punishing us. It's like, hey, honey, if this doesn't happen, this won't happen. The reason why they say they don't care is because they don't want to show the vulnerability, right? We want them to feel that, like, sometimes we want that reaction out of them for our own need of like, you better, like, this is so frustrating for me, but it's okay. This is more about you creating the ease that you desire in your parenting so that you're creating the ease and flow, filling your cup so that it's running over, so that when you do have these frustrating moments with your children, because we all will, you can feel in control. So it's not about getting our kids to do anything. It's not about reconditioning. It's like our unlearning of why we're becoming so reactive. Does this make sense? Did I answer your question, Jen? I have lots of questions that I'm going to say. So if you guys have more questions, just please post them in the chat. The second thing I wanted to say is the social pressures of motherhood and parenting in general. The second you become a parent is the second, all of a sudden, there's this additional social pressure. Sometimes it's subliminal through messaging and, I'm going to sneeze. One sec. Okay. So subliminal messages, we're seeing it in advertising. Literally, you see it everywhere. Just go to Pinterest, right? Thank you. Or you go to a bookstore, my local bookstore. We have like Chapters in Indigo, which is the Canadian version of like Barnes and Noble. And you're going there and it's like, all these wine glasses and it's like mommy juice. So what is that subliminal message? Parenting, motherhood is overwhelming. Therefore, you need to drink every night to cope with it. That's exactly what it's telling you. So you're seeing these subliminal messages and it's becoming okay. How many times have you seen those shirts, and just like comment below, of like, I'm tired, coffee is what keeps me going, or coffee is like whatever. It's like coffee, fatigue, like these are all these messages that we're receiving about motherhood. But what if we redefine it on our own terms? Just because you're a mother, you're a caregiver, you're a woman, doesn't mean you need to give in to these social pressures. But going against the current can feel very uncomfortable. And as we're going against the current, you have to realize we need to have a vision of what we want our life to be in order to create what we desire. So when I'm creating that vision for myself of what I want to feel like in motherhood, I'm literally writing it out. I'm writing out how I react when my child spills milk, how I'm reacting when my child has an epic meltdown in public, how I'm reacting when my child is struggling in school. Like, I'm visualizing myself becoming that person. Because if we're not doing the pre-work, we're living in the moment. And when we're living in the moment, people are like, live in the moment. And I was like, yeah, live in the moment. But here you are living in the moment with your anger and resentment. And if you don't know how to get out of that or move through it with ease, you're going to stay stuck in it, and it's going to stew inside of you, and then you're going to explode. So in order to understand that, you need to understand who you are. In order not to give in to these social pressures, you need to understand who you are. Number 3 of the 5-day challenge was encouraging independence. Now, this is a big one. I want you to encourage independence in your children, but pay attention to where you are becoming a little agitated in your child's lack of independence. Is it socially acceptable? Is it socially appropriate? So, are you going to expect a toddler to make dinner? No, you're not. Can you get a 10-year-old to do their laundry? Probably. But some of you will debate me otherwise. I'm not saying your 10-year-olds need to do their laundry, but what I'm saying is our children are very capable of doing more than we are giving them credit for. So when we want to encourage that independence, again, we have to make the statement. So get your pen and paper out and ask yourself, what are my children truly capable of that they're not doing now? Write it all out. And then start asking yourself, okay, what's one thing? Just circle it. What's one of these things that I can implement now? And I'm going to come back to the term or word that I just said when I used I and not we. Okay. So how can I encourage that independence now? We have to slow down to speed up. We have to be consistently imperfect. And we have to ask ourselves, what is that? Once you have that one thing, and it could be, for me and my son, my oldest, it was the morning routine. Like we were going to master this morning routine. He needed to gain, he's almost 15 years old. This was like a year or so ago, we worked on this, but he wasn't gaining the independence of waking up early. So we were really, really working on this. I had boundaries, I had consequences, and we started implementing them. And we did it consistently and perfect. And if you want me to share exactly what I did, just let me know and I will do that. We have more control than we give ourselves credit for. We also our children have more control than we give them credit for. So remember, when you are implementing a boundary, when you're implementing a rule in your home, in your parenting, they're going to butt up against the rules. So my favorite analogy, and this is by Josh Shipp, so JoshShipp. Josh Shipp said, he used this analogy and I will never forget it. Boundaries are like the, that bar that goes across your lap. And I think I'm totally paraphrasing this and I'm probably kiboshing it. But it's like that bar that goes across your lap, right? When you're in a roller coaster. The first thing you do when you get into that seat is you tug on that bar. You shake it up and down. Why? Because you want to make sure that that bar is going to hold you. It's going to carry you. It's going to keep you safe. Your child's purpose in your life is to shake you up. You are the bar. You are the one that's going to hold these children, keep them safe. So that bar, your child's purpose is to shake the bar, shake the bar, shake the bar, shake the bar. So when you implement a boundary like putting down the bar, your child is going to say, I don't want to do this. And the resistance is going to come out like a tantrum and a meltdown, and it's going to be epic. Warning, it's going to be epic. But here's the thing. When we tiptoe around these uncomfortable situations, you may think we're keeping everybody comfortable and we're avoiding all of this, but what you're truly avoiding is your discomfort of your big emotions. And this all comes back to emotional intelligence. If we don't know how to manage our discomfort, if we don't know how to manage taking risk, if we don't know how to manage our fear or our anxiety, how are we going to teach our children to do the same thing? If we can't live our best life, how are we going to teach the child to do the same way, right? So if we're encouraging independence in the child, and it might just be like brushing their teeth by themselves, making their own lunch, putting their shoes on, or bigger things, we have to gain independence in our own life, which is emotional independence as well. So I have another question here. I was always afraid to use consequences with my 6-year-old and his social anxiety and selective mutism. There are days I question if it is actually that or if it is his being difficultly stubborn. 100%. We don't know, right? It's easy to label, it's easy to diagnose, and I'm 100% advocate for these things. But I can't tell you how many times I grew up with people who were diagnosed, and I would see it, like being a child in a classroom with children who have had diagnosis of sorts. One, I think I had a friend who had cerebral palsy. I remember him having a surgery, and then I had a friend who has multiple sclerosis, and like many, many other kids around me. And I would watch them as a young child. I'd watch their parents. And the ones that really became resilient were the parents that were like, listen, you have this diagnosis, but it will not define you. And sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we're searching for a diagnosis because we think once we get the label, then all of our problems are going to be solved, but it's not. So great, now you have a diagnosis, you might get some intervention, you might have all these things, but we have to look at the whole child. So it's almost like saying, you're a girl, and because you're a girl, you can't accomplish this. Think about how many times we've been told that as women in our lives, right? Men do this, women do this. What happens is we start to form a belief that we are incapable. It's so much of a smoother morning when I guide them through by kind of following them around, making sure it's getting done. Okay, maybe. I don't know. If I talk to you, Jen, it might be easier, but I don't know the whole situation. But here's the thing. You can follow them around, but if you truly want your children to gain independence, what's going to happen when you're not there? What's going to happen if you decide you're going to be gone for a few days? What's going to happen if you're sick in bed? What's going to happen if you're like so angry and resentful that you have to like follow them around and you're challenging them, right? Like this isn't an overnight thing. Yeah, it might go smoother, but it would go smoother for me too if everyone picked up after me right behind me. But we have to challenge our children a little bit. It doesn't have to be this all or nothing mentality. Tomorrow doesn't need to be like, okay, you're figuring that out yourself. What is one little micro habit that you can change today? One little thing. It might be a list. Maybe you're creating a list and you're putting it at eye level. Maybe if your kids can't read, you're putting stickers on the floor, or you're like, step 1, you're putting a sticker in the bathroom. Step 2, and you're like, okay, it's a game. Go find all the stickers and complete the tasks. And they have to do that every single morning. We have to challenge our thinking. We have the resources and the capabilities, but if we're not challenging our thinking, we're not going to create what we desire and alignment. So you have to be radically honest with yourself and say, is it really smoother? It might be smoother in the short term, but is it smoother in the long term? Is it smoother for you mentally, physically, and emotionally to do this? And if it is, great. But what are you going to do when your kids are 10, 15, and 20? Okay, number 4. This is my favorite. Number 4, day 4 of the 5-day Good Enough Parent Challenge was partner. What do I do when, there we go. Okay, I was going to say my video. There we go. Okay, what do we do when our partner isn't evolving as much as we are? Well, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. We are control freaks. Mom is in control is all about being a control freak. And when I say freak, I don't mean actual freak. I just mean a lot of times when we feel out of control externally, or we're trying to control somebody else, whether it's a partner or a child or a friend or a coworker, or something that we're trying to control, we have to put the mirror on ourselves and say, what is it that I feel out of control internally? And then when we put the mirror on ourselves and we're like, oh man, I'm so anxious, I don't know how to control my anxiety, then we need to start doing the work on the anxiety and paying attention to the anxiety. Or I don't know how to do the work on my fear. Awesome. Let's look at the fear. Let's talk to the fear. Like, what does it need from you? So partner stuff is really interesting because I get a wide variety of it. And I always say, if you are not in a healthy relationship and you're not in a healthy relationship and it's time to release that relationship, you need to go to therapy, you need to go to counseling. And if you're questioning, like, is this going to work or not? I mean, there's so much when it comes to marriage and partnership. But here's what I've noticed in my work with people. Instead of focusing on the couple, which is not my area of expertise, when you focus on you and you focus on how you're reacting, what you're thinking about your partner, the actions that you're taking, the manipulation. And when I say manipulation, it's because we can be very manipulative into like, you need to do this and you need to do that. And I learned this, so you need to implement it. We have to go, how would I feel if somebody was doing that for me? How would I feel if I'm doing my best and my best isn't enough for somebody else? And maybe it's not, right? Maybe it's not, because we all need to grow and learn and evolve. But I always come back to myself. Why am I ask myself this question all the time. Like when I see this tendency of I'm trying to control my husband, you need to do it this way, you need to do it that way. We now are on this relationship where I ask him, call me out on it. And he will say, why are you trying to control me? Why are you trying to get me to do that? Because yes, I can't stress enough. And I've seen it happen so many times that when you change how you parent, that's in alignment with how you want to feel, meaning you're like, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling successful. Like, I did not shame or emotionally abuse my children today or manipulate them to get them to do what I want and need because I can't deal with my big emotions. I used, positive reinforcement, natural consequences. I started to learn how to parent in a way that felt in alignment. Yes, we all have off moments. But my point is, when you change how you parent, you become the change. You become the role model. You become the leader that you most desire them to be. And it's like water on a rock, right? You're this living, breathing organism. And when you are thriving in that teaching, people are watching you. Your children are watching you. Your partner's watching you. And if you are a single parent and your children go to another caregiver or your partner every other weekend or half and half or whatever this is, and you don't have control over what happens in that household, guess what? You don't. The only thing you have control over is the relationship that you have with your child. But here's the thing. People overcompensate for other people's lack of parenting all the time. So if you are parenting from this place of guilt and fear, and so you're just constantly overgiving to your child, or, you're trying to buy their love through gifts, or you don't have boundaries because you feel bad because you don't see them all the time, how is that going to help them in the future? I understand, but sometimes understanding that the child's behavior is a reflection of your internal turmoil. The child's behavior is a reflection of your internal emotional lack of control. So as you're changing from the inside and projecting that on the outside, and you're doing it from this place of love, this is where the magic happens, because you're starting to create alignment. So example, I always want to cuddle with my kids. Like, it's my favorite thing to do. But I don't want them sleeping with me all the time. Yes, once in a while, one will end up in the bed with me. But if I have a big shared bed, and some people love this and it honestly works for them, a huge communal bed, That's fabulous. What works, keep it. What doesn't work, let the rest go. But here's the thing. When I bought into this illusion that I need to have a family bed and everybody was welcome in my bed, I became angry and resentful because I wasn't getting enough sleep. And so once I started implementing that boundary and said, how do I want to feel like a good mother? Like, how can I get back in alignment? What works for me? Magic started to unfold. And because the magic was unfolding, I had to be very strict with my boundary. And then there was things that I was doing that my husband was like, I don't agree with that because of the way that he was parented, and he's a different person than I am. And so I was just like, I got to do this for me. You can do that for you. And we evolve as our children evolve as well. So now I'm going to shift gears. I'm going to jump into understanding your child's behavior mini course and talk a little bit about that. But before I do that, I want to answer any questions. And if anyone is a brave person and wants to be unmuted, let me know and just post it in the comments below and I will unmute you and I'll give you 10 seconds to make this brave choice. And if nobody wants to be unmuted, then that's fine. Okay. So let's start talking about the Understanding Your Child's Behavior mini course. I'm going to share the screen with you. So for everybody that is on this call today, I'm going to announce the 2 bonuses that I am gifting you when you sign up for the Understanding Your Child's Behavior mini course this time around. So we've been opening, this is our second time doing it, Understanding Your Child's Behavior. It's lifetime access. You gain lifetime access to this program. Right now, you can go to heatherchauvin.com/sign up. And that will bring you to this page. And when you sign up for this round, and we only open it and close it, it's not available year round on my site. So when you sign up this round, you are going to get lifetime access to the 6 training modules, which I will tell you what they are. And you're also going to get bonus 2 live Q&As, and I'm going to be announcing these when they're happening this month. So it's just going to be just like this, where you're going to have a call in. I will send out a Q&A form in advance, and we'll let you know what time they're happening live. But if you can't make it live, then you can definitely submit your questions ahead of time and I will answer them. I know we're all busy. We have full lives, so we're going to make this as accommodating and easy for you. And this bonus Q&A is all based on the curriculum. So you guys are going through the modules, you're implementing, you're making magic happen, and these additional bonus calls are just there to give you additional support. Also, I'm going to be gifting you my energetic time management workshop. This is an online workshop. It is a $297 value, giving it to you for 100% free when you sign up this round. So the Understanding Your Child's Behavior mini course is $197. And at the top of this page, I have kind of a little statement that says, how you feel as a parent is less about discovering the perfect strategy and more about you waking up to who you really are. This program is a mix of knowing the tools, implementing the strategies, and discovering how to trust yourself along the way. And that's exactly what I teach you in this course. So in Module 1, I talk about how to cultivate the parent-child relationship that you're proud of. Module 2, I talk about why your children won't listen to you when you yell and what to do instead. Module 3, how to deepen the connection with your child without spending more time together. This is a big one, right? People think it's all about time, but it's not necessarily about time. We can cultivate and create those relationships on a deeper level using specific tools and strategies. Boundaries, how to implement boundaries without the guilt hangover. Module 5, the punishment versus consequences conversation that I had earlier on this call, knowing like what's the difference and then giving you some specific action items to implement. And then parenting together, what to do when you and your partner parent differently. So we talk about scripts, we talk about how to approach those conversations when you are engaging in those conversations with your partner. So I get it. There's a lot going on here in parenting. There is a lot. If you guys have any specific questions about the course, just post them below. There's a lot when it comes to parenting. And I will tell you that from my personal experience being a mother of 3 boys, learning all the things, the number one thing that I see people getting stuck on is not trusting themselves. So people will go, Heather, this is happening with my kid. And I will say, great, what have you done already? What hasn't worked? So getting into this mindset of trusting yourself, trusting intuitively, like, what do I need, right? So going back to that conversation of there is you, there is your child. Parenting is just a relationship. It is as simple as that. It is simply a relationship. So when you realize there is no perfect strategy, but I'm telling you right now, yelling is a bad habit. It is not a parenting strategy. Overwhelm and busyness is a symptom. It is not a lifestyle. You do not need to be chronically fatigued, angry, and resentful to see and feel amazing in your parenting. You should be in a mental and physical and emotional and spiritual state where you are feeling good 90% of the time while you are parenting. I have brought in so many people through this process who have told me, excuse me, I need to like wrap up my talking. I brought so many people through this process that have told me, Heather, I feel better now than I ever did even before I became a mother. So it is possible to radically transform how you feel mentally and emotionally about your relationship with your child, and more importantly, the relationship you have with yourself. So through this process and this program, you are not only going to be learning about parenting, but all of these modules that you are going to gain instant access to. So as soon as you register, you could literally register right now, like right now. So go to momisincontrol.com/sign up. You get instant access to all 6 modules. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a rinse and repeat process. You can do it with a friend, whatever. But you need to understand that there's ways that you can implement strategies and tools and marry it together and go, what works for me and what works for my child. Alignment. It is a real thing. So ladies, before I wrap it up, if you have any questions, comment below in the chat box, but I will leave you with this. How do you want to be remembered? When your time is complete here on this earth, when your children walk out of the door for the last time, when they say, Mom, Dad, whoever, I'm out of here. How do you want them to remember you? What is that feeling you want to say, I have no regrets? Understand that this parenting thing, one, we will always have these stories of I'm never enough, I'm not doing enough. But if you can go to bed being like, I did enough, I'm improving, I'm 1 degree better than I was yesterday. Do something, be proactive instead of reactive in your parenting. Magic will unfold. Is there a registration deadline? Yes, there is a registration deadline. And you are going to ask me what it is. And I believe it is November 8th. Do not quote me on that, but there is a registration deadline. If you're following me on Instagram, if you are on my newsletter, and I will be talking about it more on podcast time. But I'm 100%, I'm like 99.9% sure that the deadline is November 8th at midnight Eastern Standard Time. So once the doors are closed, the doors will be closed and then no more. We don't keep it open for that reason. We want you to go through it. We also want to hold you accountable to actually creating change, because it's so easy to go, I'll do it later, I'll do it later. So we are putting that urgency in there, because I'm not allowing people to go through this course throughout the whole year. You need to get on it, get started, make magic happen. Another question that I hear often is, how much time is this going to take? So the modules are 20 minutes. I did not go over that mark. There might be up to 25 minutes. the action that you are taking is something that you're doing every day anyways. I'm just teaching you how to do it differently. So besides the 20 minutes a day, the 20 minutes that you're watching the module, which, I mean, if you've been with me this long, I've been talking for almost 45 minutes. We have time, ladies and gentlemen. We have time. It's just we're not prioritizing the change that we want to make in our lives. So if you commit to 20 minutes per module and implementing that, this whole process is going to take you about 10 minutes a day. But in order for you to create change and see change, you have to be consistently imperfect. So that's where I'm going to leave it with you. How do you want to be remembered? Knowing that you can change how you live, work, play, and parent if you are willing to change how you live, work, play, and parent. So head on over to mamasincontrol.com/sign up, and I will see you on the inside. Bye, guys.